This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
It's going to WrestleMania. Claymore! Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass.
This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
Well, there's certainly no lack of things to talk about tonight as WWE is heating up in a crazy way. I don't even know where to begin with the amount of things that are going on, the things we could talk about post Elimination Chamber. We heard Cody respond to the events of Elimination Chamber. We're obviously going to break that down. We're going to answer some emails that we didn't during the mailbag that I simply slipped through the cracks. So we'll talk to those individuals in just a few moments as well. But I don't know where to start. We have a new women's world champion. We talked about that extensively on Monday Night Raw on the Raw Review. We also have a new United States champion in LA Knight. We've got a tease for Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins from the WWE 2K25 video game. If you saw Paul Heyman talk about that at length, which now seems to be that it will be Roman versus Rollins one-on-one at WrestleMania. It seems to be headed that way. Punk involved in that makes no sense, as he is targeting Cena and Rock. And it seems to be more and more that his favor that he's going to cash in from Paul Heyman is indeed going to be getting into the triple threat, or making it a triple threat between John Cena, between Cody Rhodes, and between CM Punk for the WWE Undisputed Championship. That seems to be where we're trending. That there was a rumor a couple of months ago that indeed it's going to be a triple threat between Rollins and Punk and Reigns. That doesn't seem to be where WWE is lining up. It would make no sense right now. So Rollins Reigns seems to be where they're headed, and I couldn't be more excited about that. If you haven't seen Paul Heyman speak on this, and again, he did it in the context of the 2K25 video game, look it up. Just YouTube it. Paul Heyman, Seth Rollins, Roman. Easy to find. Worth the watch, because it does set the table nicely for this program heading into WrestleMania. Again, it's not official, but at this point, with WrestleMania 5.5 weeks out, it's kind of official. So I don't see any other path for Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. He may have something to say in the Cody match. He may not, but I think he should stick to a non-title program with Rollins, because that match does not need the title, does not warrant the title. The title is completely irrelevant to the personal feud going on that has boiled over for the last 10 plus years with Roman and Rollins, and the real life tension they've had, and the biggest turn in the company at the time. It was looked at as one of the biggest turns with Seth Rollins, and still is to this day, turning on the Shield, disintegrating the Shield. That moment has been played. If you've been a wrestling fan since that point that Seth Rollins actually turned on Roman and we saw the reaction, how many times have you seen that chair shot to the back? 200. I mean, ballparking it, right? It's been one of the most played turns of all time, rightfully so. But now they get to use that for a WrestleMania match, which should be a lot of fun. The promos should be really good. And hopefully Roman is back in short order to build that program and have Paul Heyman at his side, and it should be a fun build. I do want to make a quick side note about the 2K25 video game. I have not downloaded it from the PlayStation Network, PlayStation Plus, whatever. Have not done that yet. Am I going to? Probably at some point. I usually wait until the price comes down, because I'm going to probably get the Bloodline version, which right now is like $130, $120, whatever it is, US dollars. And that's like that's too much money. I can't justify that. That's like double a video game price at launch, and so that's not happening for me. I'll probably wait until it comes down, which takes a couple of months. But at that point, they'll have the patches for all the bugs that I've seen going on. There's a new mode called the Island, which you get to like walk around and interact with people, but apparently there's a ton of server issues. It's slow. You can't find any matches. I'm not quite understanding what the hell that mode is, but I'm glad they brought back intergender matches. The Universe mode seems better. The My Rise has got some good praise, and Showcase seems to be just a mode that people have to go through to unlock stuff. So I'm trying to get to the 2K25 Bloodline version, which I think unlocks everything right up front. You don't have to do all that work, I think. So somebody correct me if I'm wrong. Am I going to waste my money if I buy the Bloodline version? Because I don't want to have to go through all the Showcase stuff. I just want to be able to have my matches, everything unlocked, and let's go. But anyway, so if you guys have played 2K25, if you've downloaded it, let me know what you guys think about it. Because I trust your opinions. You guys are the wrestling fans. You guys are the true wrestling fans in my mind that really understand what makes a great video game for wrestling fans. So those of you back to the No Mercy days, the WWF Attitude Era, or the WWF Attitude, WWF Warzone, WCW NWO Revenge, WrestleMania 2000, SmackDown Know Your Role, the original SmackDown, and then Shut Your Mouth, Here Comes the Pain, and so on. I mean, those are going from like my middle school to high school to college years for me. And then the original SmackDown versus Raw, I remember that came out in 2005. First time to have online play. I remember that very much, sitting in my dorm room. Or actually, it was kind of an apartment down in South Carolina. I was there for one semester. And I was so excited to finally have SmackDown versus Raw. And then SmackDown versus Raw 2006 came out while I was there. But to have online play, it was just incredible. You could finally play somebody that wasn't in the room with you. You didn't have to have somebody over. I remember being so excited about that, sitting in my apartment down in South Carolina. And that's another story for another day. I'm giving you a very small sliver of what I did in that apartment, or at least what I did down there. And again, maybe that's an After Dark episode that I'll share at some point. Anyway, that was what? How many? 20 years ago? Oh my God. Yeah, 2005. That was when Eddie Guerrero passed away, and I remember being there. And anyway, so back to current product, back to things you guys actually clicked on the show to listen to, not my past, but rather this past week in WWE. By the way, if you guys want to go ad-free, great time to do that right at the heart of WrestleMania season here. Patreon.com/WWE podcast. Good place to go. Great place to go to get an ad-free WWE podcast listening experience on top of a Patreon or a Discord server and exclusive shows like the After Dark show hosted by Luis Gonzalez, who is just an incredible host. All right, so let's talk a little bit about this week in WWE. I'll throw in some emails and we'll close out with more WWE this week stuff. So let me actually start out here, believe it or not, with LA Knight, because he wins the United States Championship, major championship change on the road to WrestleMania. Is this surprising? No, it is not. It is not surprising if you read the tea leaves in WWE. How do you know that they're about to make a title change? Well, there's a couple of clues, and you could not take this to the bank every time, but it's a general good rule of thumb. When you have a championship match that closes the show, that's usually a good indication that you're going to have a title change, or at least it raises the potential of a championship change. That's rule number one. That's a big clue number one. Clue number two, you have a champion that they have done absolutely nothing with for an extended period of time, meaning like 4 weeks or more, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, especially over a couple of months. Then you can go, all right, they're setting this up. And that's exactly what we got here. And you also have the opponent who's been on the rise or seems to be a bigger star than Shinsuke has been. And you put those ingredients together and you have the result of a championship change. And that's exactly what we got here in a match that went 11 minutes and 10 seconds with LA Knight winning the United States Championship. I don't understand what they do with Shinsuke Nakamura. He is a case study. Ever since, thinking back to even when he became Intercontinental Champion a number of years ago, they did the same exact thing with him. They made him champion. You're thinking, okay, they're finally going to do something with him after not doing anything with him for a couple of years. Since the AJ Styles Shinsuke Nakamura matchup at WrestleMania, I don't know how many years ago that was. They had the Shinsuke turn, remember that? And then they essentially didn't do a ton. They quieted him down for a significant period. He becomes Intercontinental Champion. He doesn't do anything as Intercontinental Champion. You actually forget that the championship is even on the brand. And then he just drops it. That's exactly what happened here. Of course, a shorter timeline. But same thing. They make him Intercontinental Champion. He becomes US Champion. He is a little bit darker. You're thinking, okay, modified music, modified look. They're going to do something with him. What do? Yeah, I don't know either. Pretty much nothing. The peak of his career, when we look back at it, may in fact be the subtitle anime-style promos that he did with Seth Rollins last year. Even though he didn't win the World Championship, obviously, that may be the peak of his career. Because they don't know what the hell to do with him. And I don't know why. Maybe his contract's coming up. Maybe they're looking to release him. I'm not saying that's the case, but you can't put it past the company at this point. They seemingly don't know what formula to, at least a long-term formula to what to do with his character. I really don't think it's a difficult riddle to solve. The guy went darker, his music changed, his look changed. You know how to fix the promo issue of communicating with the audience. That was extremely effective during the Seth Rollins feud. So there's your solution there. I don't understand a guy that is excellent in the ring, understands ring psychology, doesn't hurt people or usually get hurt, doesn't cause any issues to the company, goes about his business in a professional manner, becomes champion, and then they hide him. I don't get it. Now, I know he's never going to be the face of the company. He's not exactly the youngest guy anymore. I just think there's way more they could have got out of Shinsuke. If we look back and this is kind of if we're talking about the highlights here and there's not much more to add, I feel like they didn't get the most out of him. I hate to say it. They just fumbled him big time. Now, on to LA Knight winning. Cool. It seems like LA Knight is living in the United States title picture, but that does also make sense given the fact that it's WrestleMania season. And when the WrestleMania season comes around, you can see the players, you know what cards are lining up. LA Knight's not in those cards. With the way The Rock is coming back and the massive impact he had, the John Cena turn, which WWE, by the way, ranked their number one turn of all time. I would pump the brakes a bit on that. And also, how do you rank those things? According to who? WWE themselves? How does that work? Did the fans vote? I don't think the fans voted, did they? Not that it really matters. It's not a serious issue. But when they come out with these lists, well, did you consult with the fans, the people that pay money to watch your product? Did you just bother to poll them? Or did you just, with some ancillary metric, rank them in the order that you want it to be ranked, rather than actually risking the fans putting a ranking order that you don't approve of? I don't know. I take issue when they come up with these rankings. I'd love to know their system for how they come up with the numbers. Do I think John Cena's turn is the biggest turn of all time? I mean, it's arguable. Definitely arguable. I think it is a massive turn. It's one that with most anybody that I think is a wrestling fan would agree, whether you like the turn or don't. The impact of it is industry changing, as Triple H warned us. And it has to be in most people's top 5 at the very least. But again, Austin's turn at WrestleMania 17, as I talked about in my last show, massive turn. Hogan on the NWO, with the Outsiders and Bash at the Beach 96. Yes, massive. I would argue that one is bigger. And the reason is, and I'll tell you again, it's the timing of it. Because Hogan had many years to capitalize on it. The company had many years to make money off of it, where John Cena has 8 months. And he probably won't be heel for the whole time. You know at the tail end, he's going to turn back babyface. And his extremely limited number of dates at 50 years old doesn't help things either. But that's not a complaint. It's just an observation. It's just objectively looking at this. Yes, it is a massive turn. I agree with the turn. I love the turn. It just feels like a little, in a way, too little too late. But I'm glad we got it. That's not saying I wouldn't have done it. I think it's a great choice. I mean, most viewed video on WWE social media ever. I mean, I think that says something. Anyway, moving on. I'm getting distracted here. So LA Knight winning, that sets him up for a WrestleMania. At least it does do this for Shinsuke or for LA Knight. For those of you that are concerned about LA Knight's positioning at WrestleMania, it puts him in the conversation to at least be on the card. Where some of you, if he wasn't a champion, may be concerned that he's not even going to be on the show. He is. And that solidifies it here. And I don't see LA Knight losing the championship for quite some time. Yeah, so. All right, I just want to kick off with that. And I'll get in a little bit more. We had Randy Orton. Let me just talk about Randy Orton before the emails here. Because Randy Orton, I love the guy. I mean, from what I see from a distance on a professional level, we don't know him personally. Maybe he's a total a-hole. From what I understand, he actually was, for many years back in the day, a total just, But from a fan perspective, purely wrestling fan, I love the guy. He's ageless. It looks like he could go another 20 years. I think he'll go probably another 4 or 5, but that's my personal take on it. But his in-ring is otherworldly. It still is at this point in his career, and he's incredible. And do I think they got the most out of Randy? No, but a lot of that was self-inflicted from Randy Orton early in his career. But we saw on SmackDown why they really don't let him go long-form promo. This wasn't a bad promo by Randy Orton, but you see why he doesn't do it often, and why a lot of Randy Orton promos were a couple minutes, short to the point, a lot of interruptions so he doesn't have to go long form. It was weird at times. It felt like he lost his place a couple of times, and hell, I'm not saying it's easy. But I understand why they never did it with Orton. He couldn't find the pacing of the promo. It was weird. So let me go through it here. So Randy Orton comes out here at the beginning of the show, and he did pretty much the 3-hour show entrance, and that he took time getting into the ring. And again, his entrance, just like many others, are just too long. But he said a lot of crazy things has happened since he was last in the ring. Orton said that ever since he started in the business, John Cena has always been at the top of his profession, and now he's a bottom for Rock. Orton said, I guess that gives the whole new meaning to the term rock bottom, doesn't it? And then, yeah, so, I mean, clearly, that was a good one. I'll give him that. That was a funny joke here. Pointed at John Cena being the bottom for Rock, with rock bottom. If you don't get the joke, careful Googling what a bottom is. Okay. Kids, if you're out there, get your, don't even ask your parents. Just don't do it. Okay. Just don't do it. But if you get the joke, you get the joke. Orton then welcomed the fans to SmackDown. I hate that. I hate it so much. He's not the flag bearer of the company. I hate that so much. Anybody who does that outside of the announcers or a referee, or I don't know, maybe even the GM of the show would be fine. They're the rah-rah people for the company. The wrestlers shouldn't be. They should be in it for themselves. Sorry, they should be. But everybody, I don't know. I've gone over that way too many times. Let's keep going. He said Cena was on the short list of friends he had in the business, as was Kevin Owens. Orton said he respects Owens, the wrestler, and the story of the way he busted his ass to get in WWE is admirable. And he said it's Owens, the man, he has a problem with. He spoke about how jealousy fuels Owens and pointed to Owens trying to end his career, the career of Cody with the pile driver. He tried to end Sammy because Sammy has slowly but surely become a better, bigger star than Owens. And he questioned why Owens was jealous of him and pointed out that Owens headlined WrestleMania twice, including once against Austin. And Orton said Owens is never satisfied. He said he had a spinal fusion a year and a half ago, and several doctors told him it would be the end of his career. But he said basically no, that he's going to do anything it takes to come back. But he said Owens has now pissed him off. Oh, really, Orton? Really? So somebody dropping you on your head is finally what really pushes you over the edge. Somebody trying to paralyze you is, oh, you're a little pissed. Oh, okay. I mean, like, I don't know. That didn't really, I get it. A little kind of underwhelming there, but Orton recalled putting Owens down with an RKO, which he said would have normally been enough. Is really? Somebody trying to literally put you in a wheelchair, you're just going to hit a little RKO and go, yeah, that's probably good. But he said that he had a feeling that he hasn't had in a long time. He said the voices spoke to him and told him to kick Owens. And he did make a promise that he would show that Pat McAfee is the second best punter in WWE. So, again, while Orton seemed more relaxed on the mic, his promos are just a different flavor when they're in long form. Maybe I'm just not used to a Orton long form promo because we don't usually get them. You don't usually get them. It's very much bullet points that he hits, and that's it, with a lot of other stuff that he never has to fill in. So, again, not a bad promo. Maybe I'm just not used to seeing this from Orton. Okay, moving on. So I guess the payoff, by the way, is us getting to see Orton punt in the head Kevin Owens. All right, so before we go through a little bit more SmackDown and some Raw stuff, let's talk to somebody that I didn't speak to on the Mailbag show, which, by the way, you guys can catch every single Friday, usually Friday night. And this is from Darren, and he's a patron. He says, "Hey, WWE podcast family. I saw that Triple H said something like he didn't have the main events for WrestleMania picked out yet, that they'll go with the hottest storylines. I'm sure Cody and Cena will main event night 2, but for night 1, do you think it's possible they have a blood feud with no title main event like Seth versus Punk or Seth versus Punk versus Roman? I think either of those would be better in ring and story than Gunther versus Jay, but how often is the Royal Rumble winner not main eventing? And of course, there's the women too." Shout out to the Discord. It was fun in there. Well, yeah, thank you, Darren. So that's a good point. And what I think is likely to happen, they almost have to go with Jay versus Gunther because of what you said. Because Jay is the Rumble winner, and we're always told that the main event of WrestleMania is the prize for the Rumble winner. Well, Jay can't claim that prize if he doesn't have the first night spot. I think it's a fairly good lock that it is Jay versus Gunther, even though the story of Rollins and Reigns, to me, is bigger than Jay Gunther. So they're going to have to shift around some things and make it seem like Jay Gunther's bigger. It's not. I understand the title's on the line, and the title should be respected. If this wasn't WrestleMania, I would say you just go with Rollins Reigns night 1. But they're going to go Jay and Gunther because Jay is a favorite to win. And we'll see if that continues. If the odds of Jay winning continue to increase or maybe decrease, and maybe it's a squash by Gunther. I've heard that thrown around too. As far as the women, I know that the question was posed to Triple H during the press conference of Elimination Chamber, the post-game press conference, and I don't think that the women are going to make it into a main event this year because you know for sure night 2's locked up. Forget it. Throw away the key. That spot's done. For night 1. I just don't see the women main eventing. There's some good candidates there, and honestly, this presumed triple threat between Io, Rhea, and Bianca, which is presumed, is worthy of a night 1 main event. But in the pecking order of things on the card, it's just, it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit because Rollins Reigns is bigger. It just is. And again, that's not a confirmed match yet, but the presumed matches. And nobody can tell me that Rollins Reigns is not a bigger matchup when you're going to have tons of archived footage pulled from the record book. You're going to have Paul Heyman speaking on it. The promos between Rollins and Reigns are going to be next level. That is going to be an awesome feud. That is bigger than the women's match. It just is. With the history, they're two veterans still in their prime. It's just a bigger match. The women, unfortunately, this year are not in a position, I don't think, to claim the night one spot. And it's not disrespecting the women because they're in a good spot with especially the women's world championship. Would I like Bianca Rhea? Hell yeah. Why they're not doing it this year? I don't understand it. I don't understand the need to put Io in there. Unless Bianca's going to be pulled into this Jade thing, which was an amazing performance. We'll talk about that a little bit later too. With the tears and all that. Just great. Just awesome between Bianca and Naomi. Amazing. But this is just not in the cards. It's not in the cards this year. So that's kind of a bummer. Kind of a bummer that it's going to be Io and Bianca. But again, Rhea has to be put in here somehow. She has to be. You can't leave Rhea out. So with Rhea and Io, I don't know what they're going to do with Jade. I would think Jade is going to face Bianca at WrestleMania. Her first one-on-one. And I want to see what Jade can do. I would imagine that's going to be a 5-minute match, but that may be the style that Jade brings. So, sorry, I don't see the women this year main eventing WrestleMania on night one, because night two, forget it. I mean, there's just no chance. No chance. So, thank you, Darren. Let's get to one more email I missed, and then we'll back to some SmackDown talk. From Tom. Tom says, I loved The Rock's quotes after Elimination Chamber about him being a long gamer and how Bad Blood, the Netflix premiere, and Cena's free pass into the chamber was all part of the plan. Well, I'm not sure how true that is. They've made it look believable, and I'd rather go along with that than not, because it just looks so perfectly executed thus far. I also think there are some seeds being planted long game for Rock Roman. If you really look into it, they're not far from clashing. I don't see it happening at 41, but 42 is definitely doable. You know, it's so... We've been saying, well, not this year, but next year for Rock Roman for the last 7 years. Now, you're probably right. And as we get closer to Father Time, eventually just saying, hey guys, you waited too long, ain't happening. The next year does look like is what they're aiming for. Maybe they'll get Rock and Cody at SummerSlam. If Rock is going to indeed have a match, and he should against Cody Rhodes. I don't want to hear, well, it doesn't need to lead to a match. Yeah, it does. Stop it. Just stop, Rock. I understand right now it's not talking about a match between you and Cody, but that's ultimately the payoff, because you're, in a wrestling company. I know you'd say you're not, but you are. That's how you entertain people, through wrestling. And the stories that are told prior to the matches are why people care about the matches. So I don't want to hear that it's about entertainment and storytelling. Yeah, it is. But the matches are ultimately what people, that's what the whole stories are building to, are the matches. So I don't want to hear that it's suddenly not about matches anymore. It's a bunch of garbage. But as far as The Rock connecting the dots between Bad Blood, Netflix, and Cena's pass, that I think was cleverly done, but I don't think it was done by design. I really don't. I do believe he's a long gamer, but here's the thing with The Rock. He's got about 400 million things going on that he likely decided that, okay, fine, I wasn't going to do it, and I'm going to do it, but I'm not going to do it. And then we'll tell the fans that, well, we meant to do this. That's probably what happened. Why? How do I know this? Because it's happened about the last, again, 7-8 years at WrestleMania, right? How many times you heard about Rock coming back to face this person, face Roman? He's coming back to face Roman. Then, his schedule. Sorry, he can't come. Oh, wait, he's going to make an appearance, but he's not going to wrestle. Like, that's just who The Rock is with his schedule. So they did a nice job of conveniently connecting the dots. That's my take. I could be wrong, but the bad blood thing, the ridiculous coming out of character at Netflix nonsense, I think that was garbage. In terms of them thinking The Rock was going to be at WrestleMania. But what they do is, I think they do things that they say, well, if we don't have The Rock for WrestleMania, we kind of gave them a clue that, look, things are mended. Rock and Cody they're buds now. And Rock's going to be, missing this year. Sorry. But if they decide Rock, decides he's going to do WrestleMania, which it seems like he's doing this year, at least in a maybe semi-physical role, then we could say, oh, well, that was all part of the plan. So what they're doing is towing the line very smartly with everything they're doing not being definitive. So they'll deodorize it with, we're long gamers. And, we're thinking outside the box, which they are. But at the same time, they're doing things that aren't definitive, so they're not locking themselves into one thing. That's a very clever way of doing creative. Do you see what I'm saying? So like everything that we're thinking they could do, they could based on the evidence we have, but they also could not based on the evidence we have. Because they could come up with something easy to make up and go, oh, well, we're long gamers. And I appreciate that. I like long gaming, but it's a reason and it's also an out. So they're phrasing it quite nicely. So that said, I really don't know who's going to win at WrestleMania. I think Cena winning his 17th title in Vegas is monumental, and it could set up a fun summer of Cena and Rock flexing their muscles and maybe adding more pieces to the Final Boss Empire. However, let's assume Jay wins over Gunther. I could see a story where Cena loses to Cody and then goes after Jay's title and abuses Jay. What makes this noteworthy is Roman would feel compelled to defend his brother and fight against a reboot authority like he did 10 years ago, thus putting him at odds with The Rock. The bloodline story seems a bit dead at the moment, especially with Roman ready to feud with Seth and Punk, but this would be a way to revive it. Yeah, definitely. Definitely, Tom. You're going to have, if Rock Roman is indeed the plan for WrestleMania 42, which you would think is, okay, let's go with that for now. If Rock Roman's the idea for 42 in New Orleans, that's a great way to get there. The bloodline story after the Survivor Series War Games match has kind of just gone, right? Sammy's doing his own thing. Jay's doing his own thing. Jimmy's doing something. I don't know. Right? Roman obviously took a little time off, as he does. That's just his schedule now, and it's been that way for years. So you have that. Paul Heyman is only there when Roman's there. So they're all on their separate storylines, but you're right. They could easily bring back Roman to defend Jay if Jay is being bullied by one of Rock's goons or Rock himself. Because Rock and Cena are poised to go on a power trip. And at some point, they're going to piss off the wrong person, which could lead to Roman Reigns becoming at odds with The Rock, leading to 42. But that seems like something they could plant the seeds for this year and work towards slowly over 2025 and late this year into 2026. But there's a million ways to get there, as we're seeing right now. Outside of Stone Cold Steve Austin, which I'll continue to hammer home, he lives in Vegas or nearby. He, in a recent interview, did allude to the fact that, he kind of teased it. It's got to happen. It's got to happen. I'll keep hammering it home. And you know what? If after night 2 we see no Austin, I will hang my head and bring great shame to my family. That's fine. I'll take the hit. But I'm going to continue to believe that we're going to see Austin, do what he should have done last year with a stunner or two. Not a match, but just some fun stunners and beer. Helping out Cody for an old rival. All righty. Thank you, Tom. All right, and thank you, Darren. So let's get back to it. Back to a little bit of SmackDown here. We got Tiffany Stratton versus Piper Niven in a non-title match. Chelsea Green was not at ringside with Piper. And we had Tiffany beat Piper Niven in 8 minutes in, a non-title match after Stratton hit the prettiest moonsault. After the match, though, Charlotte Flair comes in, hit Stratton's left knee. Flair puts Stratton in a figure 8, and referees try to talk down Flair. She eventually released it, and that was that. So nothing revolutionary here. Your pretty standard heel attack after the babyface wins the match. Tried true formula. Tried and true. Not going to get any headlines. No one's really talking about it because there's so much else going on and bigger stars, bigger matchups. But this is one to keep an eye on too. With Stratton and Flair. That one certainly is not going to main event night one. I mean, I know Tiffany fans would love that to happen. It's not going to happen. It's just not. I mean, just use, as much as you may be a fan of Tiffany Stratton and you want to see her beat Charlotte, or maybe Charlotte wins. It doesn't really matter. That storyline is not nearly as hot as everything else going on. Yeah, people don't like Charlotte. She's a big star, but that matchup just does not seem to be anywhere near the magnitude of everything else going on. Okay, so then we had Motor City Machine Guns take on Pretty Deadly, who also took on Los Garza. This is a triple threat for the number one contenders for the tag titles. Really solid match here. As expected, you had Pretty Deadly beat Los Garza and the Motor City Machine Guns to become the number one contenders. So, which is fine. They'll Pretty Deadly. It's nice to see them actually get a victory because they're so forgotten. A team that has potential. They're a little bit of Billy and Chuck, but the 2025 version of that. I actually find them entertaining, and I think in ring they're pretty good. But I don't think that they're ready to even be tag team champions. I just don't see it. I don't see it. They don't get enough TV time. They're not laying the foundation for anything. They could be in for a shock win, but I just don't think so. All right. So then we have, let's see here, some really embarrassing over-the-top people on the internet reacting to John Cena's heel turn. That's a thing they do now. All right, so Belair then wore shades and stood in the ring silently. She said she should feel like she's on top of the world after winning the Chamber, but she said she should be focusing on going to WrestleMania, but that's tough to do when two of your friends are fighting. Belair said she and Jade elevated the tag team division together, and then Naomi stepped in so their hard work wouldn't go to waste. And Belair said Naomi became her best friend, and she doesn't believe that Naomi would attack Cargill. Belair said she's confused and neither woman would have responded to her. And she called for Naomi to come out to give her some answers. Naomi comes out and told Belair it's not what it looks like and needed to lock in with her. Naomi asked who had her back when Jade couldn't compete. And Naomi said all of the outside noise is distracting them from focusing on getting the tag titles back. And Belair focusing on WrestleMania. Belair told her to stop. It's all about Jade right now. And Naomi then said, Jade. If she wanted to know how she really feels about her. Then we had Naomi say that she kept quiet to avoid hurting Jade's feelings, but she felt that Jade was piggybacking off of Belair the entire time. Naomi said she was pushed aside and had to fight for herself. And she said she let them get their flowers, didn't say a word, and didn't give a damn about Jade. She didn't give a damn about Jade. And Belair then demanded a yes or no. Did you do it or not? And with tears, Naomi paused and said, I did it. And she said she did it for Belair. And she said she did it for us, Naomi reached out. Belair told her not to touch her. She said it hurt because she loved Naomi and now she can't even look at her. And she told Naomi that they're finished. And she told Belair not to walk out on her. Naomi did. And Naomi said she should have pushed Jade harder. And Naomi called Belair an ungrateful witch. And that's when Belair looked back at the ring, almost changing from sadness to anger. And that's when Jade comes in, perfectly timed, of course, arriving in her big SUV. She exited the vehicle in her wrestling gear. I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to get on this segment about logic, the fact that she timed it perfectly and where the cameras knew she was going to be there to catch it when the promo perfectly ended, and the fact that she's already wearing her wrestling gear in the car and wears her actual, you know what I mean? Like all these little things that just like, I'm just like, whatever, fine. But Jade comes out and she ends up working over Naomi, passes by Belair, and hits her finish. Couple things here. Number one, the reaction for Jade was not on par with what I think they wanted the crowd to feel or react to based on the circumstances. The reaction was not that big for Jade. Why? Because Jade has not created that emotional connection with the fans yet. She had a hell of an appearance at the Chamber. I applauded it. It's what I wanted from Jade. And we got it. But Jade so far hasn't really done the basics. Well, she's done one of the three basics, which is look the part. And boy, does she look the part. And that's carried her thus far. That's about all that's carried her thus far. Second is she has to really show she can perform in the ring. One-on-one. And third, she has to connect with the fans emotionally in a promo. Who are you? Why should we care? Beyond your sunglasses and your perfect body and your, lip fillers, whatever. You need, I don't know if she has lip fillers, but you know what I'm saying. Beyond the superficial stuff, you need to connect with the fans. And I don't think she's done that. So the fans are like, yay, okay, Naomi's getting beat up. But it was more of a cheering of Naomi being beat up than cheering for Jade getting revenge, if that makes sense. So it wasn't a big reaction. And I don't know what they're going to do from here. I would imagine they're going to continue with Jade as a babyface and then eventually turn her heel when she goes against Bianca, which could be Mania, could be, who knows. But Jade Bianca obviously is the money match that people wanted the moment that Jade walked in the company. But there's a lot of improvements that need to be made on Jade's side before that happens, storyline, everything else. So that's number one. Number two, and really maybe even more importantly, the performance by both Naomi and Bianca was just awesome. And I even felt myself getting emotional for a storyline I know is not real, and for a storyline that I also didn't give two craps about. Over the last 2 months, 3 months since Jade's been gone, I've been making fun of it because everyone's forgotten. And it's been shoved back in our face, and I am really back into it because of Jade and Bianca. I'm sorry, Bianca and Naomi, I should say. With the tears they were able to well up, the emotion in their voices, it didn't feel contrived. It felt real. It was perfectly paced. Naomi maybe had her biggest night in her career on SmackDown with the fans, at least from a reaction standpoint, from the fans talking about standpoint. I mean, yes, she's returned at the Rumble. She had, she went into Orlando as women's champion. I'll remember all that at WrestleMania 33. But still, it feels like Naomi's settling into this heel role in a much better way than she has ever been in a babyface role. So we'll see if that continues. It's only one night. But the performance by both women was commendable. It brought you in emotionally. It was great. So that's what I'm leaning on here. And we'll have to see what they do about the Jade problem of the fans just simply not reacting to her at the magnitude that I think they were hoping would happen. But you just need to look at the basics. And she's only checked one of the three boxes. And that's carried her a long way, more than most. But unless you have those other two pillars, you're not going to get what you need, where you need to be. So. All right. So then we have, let's see here. So we got backstage Byron approached Drew and said some people said his attack on Jamie was unprovoked earlier in the show. And McIntyre said so many people are shocked, but he could have prevented so many people from being heartbroken. That's when Priest slithered in and stole a pin. McIntyre said that if he doesn't go to WrestleMania, he has nothing left to give other than violence. He said it would start tonight with the black sheep of the family. Braun Strowman comes out, and Braun Strowman took on Solo Sikoa. Braun beat Solo by DQ in 7 minutes. After the match, we had Jacob Fatu come out. Strowman stood on the floor in front of the broadcast table and had a stare down with Fatu, who was on the other side of the ring. And they both entered the ring, threw punches. He super kicked Strowman, sending him to ringside. Fatu went for a suicide dive, but Strowman stuffed it and chokeslammed him onto a broadcast table. And he tore off his shirt, played to the crowd. Fatu stood up on the broadcast table and hit Strowman with a flying elbow. And then Fatu ran Strowman over the barricade and climbed on top of the barricade to hit another flying elbow. And it seems like they're just setting up for a Fatu Strowman match again, which is great. It's exactly where Fatu needs to be. He doesn't need to be in the title picture. He doesn't need to be the main event yet. There's a nice slow burn. Well, I don't know if I call it a slow burn. There's a nice burn going with Fatu right now. It's a nice pace. They're not rushing things. They're letting him grow as a character. And they're showing his strengths, which is violence. His facial expressions are just great. Strowman's there as a sacrificial lamb, yes. Just as he was with, I can't remember his name. I'll get it. But Strowman is being, it's funny, Strowman is being used as kind of the gatekeeper for the guys that they want to be the big names in the future. Strowman is now that guy. And I'm fine with it. Strowman's a perfect candidate for that. All right. So let's see here. We had backstage Chelsea Green just like Cactus Jack while trying to revive a beaten up Piper Niven. Zelina Vega showed up and said she would be coming for the winner of Green versus Michin. And then Green grabbed Niven by the tie and dragged her to the backstage area, and they made their entrance. So Chelsea Green with Piper Niven took on Michin in a street fight for the Women's United States Championship, which is a 10-minute match. Pretty long, really, for a Chelsea Green match, but good, fun, and having Chelsea Green win to retain was the right call. After the match, Fire saluted twice, and then Barrett said Green's administration had grown in numbers and power. So the finish was, though, a hooded person attacked Michin. That was Alba Fire. And she revealed her identity and then hit Michin with a destroyer and then, obviously cost her the match. So we have a new, I guess, henchman, so to speak, for Chelsea Green. That's fine. The Alba Fire needs to do something. Yeah, she wasn't doing much. So it's a good way to give her something to do while also giving Chelsea Green heat. All right. That's when we had Cody Rhodes come out, and he had a black eye. Looked horrible. Cena Sucks chance broke out, and asked what the City of Champions wants to talk about, but obviously we all know what it is. Now Cody Rhodes asked, what do you say to a girl who isn't even 4 years old when she asks, "Papa, what happened to your face?" And he had to tell his daughter he ran into a wall. Okay. Now, this is where I take a little exception because I'm gonna. So far, I will say this. Cody has been an acceptable character for me. Acceptable. I'm not going to go to a live event and cheer him. I'm not going to do that. I refuse to. But at least he's been more tolerable and more sympathetic to the point where even I'm like, all right, like this is a tolerable version, but it's not going to last long. I still prefer Cody as a heel. That's not in the cards for quite some time. So I'll, fine. This is a little more acceptable. What I will take exception with is this line here about a 4-year-old having a conversation with a 4-year-old. I have a 4-year-old. Okay. You are not explaining to a 4-year-old anything beyond simple things anyway. So he has to tell his daughter, yeah, I ran into a wall. Okay. If you were to sit there and explain, well, baby, listen, daddy's in professional wrestling, and I had John Cena, who you remember John Cena, right? He was a good guy for the last 23 years, and he ended up turning on me. And then there's this guy called Travis Scott who aligned with The Rock, and I was laying there, and he comes out, and after John Cena kicks me under the belt, I had Travis Scott punch me in the face. That wasn't supposed to happen. So that's why my face is all bruised. And John Cena hit me in the face with the title belt. You know what the WWE Championship is, baby? Come on. I think I've made I understand what he's trying to say here. He has to explain to us, nobody's having that conversation with a 4-year-old. 4-year-olds, they don't even know how to tie, most of them don't even know how to tie their own shoes. Okay? They aren't thinking anything beyond, what am I eating for lunch? How, I want to go play. Let's go color. Let's go run. Let's go. That's it. Okay. Their mental capacity to understand anything beyond the simplest of answers isn't there yet. Because, Cody, they're 4. So anyway, I'm just, especially anybody with a 4-year-old is just sitting there going, what are you talking about? Of course, they might ask you, well, Daddy, what happened? Your face. Sure. But the answer you give is going to have to be something simple. So I don't want to hear that you had to make something up. Of course you do. He had to tell her, apparently Cody has his own brand of lies. He has a Cody lie. You hear about this? He said it wasn't have a conversation he was prepared to have. There's no conversation to have with a 4-year-old, Cody. You don't have conversations of any real substance with a 4-year-old. That doesn't exist. Well, my 4-year-old's smart. No, everybody thinks their kid's smart and special. Okay? Most of them aren't. Your kid is special to you, and they should be. But in the grand scheme of 4-year-olds, they're still a effing 4-year-old. And you don't get your own brand of lies. What's the difference? Let me explain to me, Cody. What's the difference between a Cody lie and just, good old-fashioned run-of-the-mill lie? What exactly is the difference beyond putting your name on a brand of lying? No, you just lied. He actually says, imagine that. His wife's like, hey, Cody, did you actually tell her what happened? He's like, no, I gave her a Cody lie. And she's like, oh, okay. You didn't just regularly lie though, right? It was a Cody lie. What the hell is he talking about? I think he assumes that attaching his name to the word lie makes it less of a lie. He's trying to make this, make it into like something that kids, if you lie to them, you kind of understand it's a white lie. Maybe he could have just said white lie. We all know what a white lie is. So that really pissed me off. Okay. Despite the fact that his character's become a little more sympathetic, this whole 4-year-old stuff, move on. Anyway, he said that he drove Cena around for 2 years, and he talked a little bit about the history of Cody and Cena. He said he felt Cena was a hero. And again, he said one day he'll tell his daughter what actually happened. Well, you won't have to, Cody. You know why? Because I don't know if you heard about it, but it's new. It's recent. So maybe it won't be fully fleshed out, but there's this thing called the internet and YouTube. So, I don't know. Maybe it'll still be around. It might be a flash in the pan thing. I don't think the internet and YouTube and all social, I don't think social media will really catch on, but we'll see one day. So he said he'll tell her that a great man who did great things was his model in the sport, who ran to the ring wearing a shirt that reads "Never Give Up." And Cody said he and all the fans want to know why. He said if he knows his old friend Cena, it'll be very smooth, well-crafted, and it'll feel bulletproof and justified. Cody said there is no justification and that he was well aware that he was talking to the whole world. He said that for the fans in the room, Philadelphia was the one place his father was afraid to perform in. And he said Dusty painted his face like the Road Warrior to get the fans to cheer for him. And he spoke about his experience with fans cheering for him, and they chose him. And which is true, just as they did again last year when he finished his story. And Cody told people they could go back and watch Cena, what he said to him at the end of the WrestleMania 40 when he said the championship gets heavier every day. And he picked up the championship and said it's not heavy enough, and said he knew Cena was watching. And he knew Cena thought his successor had to look like him, talk like him, and be like him. I don't think that's John Cena, but sure. Cody said the next one doesn't look like the last one, and said Cena is convinced he is the last of his kind, but he's not. And he stood there holding the title above his head, and he dropped the mic and said, looked at the WrestleMania sign. So, yeah, really good promo. This particular review said it was an outstanding promo. I don't think it was outstanding. It was good. But we're all waiting for really John Cena. I think John Cena's response is going to be fascinating. We don't even know when that's going to be. But it's going to be fascinating. So, again, good, outstanding, no. No, I don't think it was outstanding. But again, that's just me telling a Cody lie. All right, Drew McIntyre versus Jimmy Uso, with Drew beating Jimmy in 7 minutes. And the finish was McIntyre setting up for a superplex, but Jimmy fought free. McIntyre fell to the mat, landed on his feet. McIntyre limped, and then Jimmy super kicked him. Of course he does. And then covered him for a 2 count. There was a lot of communication going on with the two, and then Uso went up top, rolled through, and McIntyre was going to avoid this Uso splash. McIntyre then drilled Uso with a Claymore kick and got the victory. After the match, he exited the ring, looked back at Jimmy, and Damian Priest ran out and hit McIntyre from behind, and a lot of pull apart. There's so many pull aparts. I have to say, too many. There's too many. Can we pause on the pull aparts? It's happening like multiple times per show. I understand they're fun sometimes, but I don't know. So we did get a Shinsuke video, by the way, airing, and he spoke in Japanese while the English subtitles were shown, and he said he knew Knight would stubbornly make one final attempt at his championship, and there was no better location for the death of Knight's dreams than the birthplace of the United States. And Nakamura said Knight will beg for mercy and will find none. Again, guys, you've solved the riddle of how to fix the issue with his limited English. I don't get it. So, all right. Well, I already talked about the main event here with LA Knight winning, and yeah. So over on Raw, very quickly here on Monday Night Raw. Let's get to it here. Io Sky wins the Women's World Championship in a move that shocked me. I didn't see that coming. I don't agree with it, but it is what it is. Right now, it's officially just Io versus Bianca, but I think Rhea will be definitely involved. Really good match. I think the match was almost 20 minutes. It was just really good. Let me get the timestamp here. 18 minutes, 40 seconds. So for a women's match, I mean, it's like 5 matches in one on some shows in terms of time. So Rollins brawled with Punk as Punk cut that promo on Rock and Cena, which was just really good. I don't need to go over it. I already did. If you want to go watch it again, I would highly recommend you do. Lyra Valkyria versus Ivy Nile for the Women's Intercontinental Championship. This is where we saw Ivy Nile retain the the Intercontinental Championship. We had the War Raiders take on the Creed brothers for World Tag Team titles, and the War Raiders retained in 11 minutes. We got more tension between Finn Balor and the Judgment Day. That seems to be headed down a dark path. And Breakker seems to be targeting Finn Balor. That's leading to a match. I don't know if it's at WrestleMania or on a Raw before, but it's definitely one that's in the cards, working towards building to Finn versus Breakker. And yeah, so there was only, and I'm counting, I didn't even realize this. There were only 4 matches on Monday Night Raw. 4. So if you're not sure which one's the entertainment-y show and which one is the wrestling show, I mean, it's kind of been the identity of those two shows for a while, but it definitely, I mean, on a 3-hour show, you only have 4 matches. It's almost 1 match per hour. Almost. It's unacceptable. Again, maybe you like that stuff, maybe you don't, but that's just my preference. So, that will do it for my Monday Night Raw review. I really do appreciate everybody joining me here tonight, joining me across the world. I know we have a lot of listeners that are all over the world, and it's just crazy to think how far sometimes you're reaching. You don't even realize it. So that'll do it for me, everybody. Hopefully daylight savings didn't screw you up too bad. For me, it's heading towards midnight, and my body feels like it's still 11 o'clock. And so I'm going to hit the hay, but I'll be back on Friday, although you might hear from me before that. Of course, oh no, you will. I'm sorry. The Raw review on Tuesday is when I'll be back, but I'll throw some nostalgic shows to you in between there, on top of the exclusive show for patrons on the NXT Plus level and above. That's the After Dark show done by Luis. Again, got to check that show out if you haven't already. I put a couple of shows for free up in my feed last week before. So if you want a sample of that, everybody can go listen to that. Search for After Dark on my feed. Even for those of you who are the non-paid subscribers, you can go and just listen to that as a sample. Check it out. Maybe you'll join us over at Patreon and get exclusive access to really everything that we have ad-free. So check us out. Give us a 5-star rating if you like us. If not, give us one anyway. So that'll do it for me, everybody. I'll get myself in trouble. Enjoy your evening or your morning or your day, whatever you're doing, and be safe. I'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.